Slightly different in that last week was about a lot of changes coming in my life and what's happening there, whereas this week is going to be hopefully the start of a regular Sunday night stream talking wrestling, talking everything that's going on in the world of wrestling, talking everything that is happening there. I thank you very much for joining me so far, and I've got quite a bit to cover, so I'll give it a little bit of time for people to catch up, a little bit of time because of the delay in chat for people to arrive, and once my YouTube tells me that there is in fact a live video going, I'll give it a little bit of time for people on Twitter to get in here so that they can have their questions answered too. At that point, we've got a few things to go through. Most notably, in my script today, I've got something on Fozzy, the band fronted by Chris Jericho, and their appearance for a concert which did not feature much in the way of enforcement of social distancing. I've got quite a bit on AEW's chief brand officer, Brandy Rhodes, and everything going on with AEW Heels. After that, I've got quite a bit of different things for the WWE, and finishing with quite a large section on New Japan, which has had its summer struggle over the last few days and over the last few weeks, and which has undergone a lot of change recently. So there is quite a bit to cover. Hopefully it'll fill some time, and obviously anything that you guys want to ask, by all means jump in. I'll be regularly reminding people of that as we go. So I want to start by talking about the concert undertaken by Fozzy. This is of course the band fronted by Chris Jericho. To be clear on this one, it's the band Fozzy. It is not at all affiliated with AEW. This was in no way a decision that AEW has taken part of, and I think this is something that needs to be mentioned pretty much immediately, because there's a lot of tension heading their way for this particular aspect, and really this isn't something that AEW has any control over. Like I say, I'm going to go in quite a bit of detail, but essentially Chris Jericho has gotten a bit of hot water with fans and the AEW fandom, the WWE fandom, for being part of a concert in front of a moderate crowd that did not seem to be featuring social distancing at all. Now, this was part of a pre-arranged booking. He had sold these tickets a long time ago. The venue said it was open, we can hold this concert, so they went ahead and held the concert. As Jericho has described it, and I will give information on that straight away, because this is the best source of information that we have, is of course from Chris Jericho. So what he has said as regards COVID testing, he has explained that 4 shows remained in August. This is a direct quote now. And I was like, how? The shows are in South Dakota and North Dakota, and we have one in Fort Madison, Iowa, which is right near the border of South Dakota. The reason why these shows have happened is that these states of North and South Dakota have low COVID cases, less than 1,000 in both states. I think Florida had 9,000 alone today. The venues are either outside or they are half capacity. We are sold out tonight in Mino, which I think 50% capacity. Last night we were sold out in Sioux Falls with 35% capacity. We hand out masks at the door, do temperature checks, we stay on the bus all day. The Fozzy crew and camp have been tested. Now, if everyone in his camp has been tested, the risk to Chris Jericho and in fact to AEW should be minimal. However, from pictures taken of the event, the crowd did not respect social distancing. They came up to the stage, and Chris Jericho has very possibly been exposed to those people. Definitely doesn't mean in any way that he's been exposed to COVID. That could be a completely different thing. One thing I want to say from the off is that ultimately it's worth pointing out that it's not on the band to enforce the wearing of masks or social distancing. If the venue's open, the venue should take some liability. Now the question is, what Jericho's saying about testing, is it enough? If you've seen pictures from the event, he was definitely exposed to a number of people, and Jericho's power in that moment is to refuse to perform. But then he'd be letting down fans who have paid for tickets, so it's not that cut and dry. Moving on from COVID, we are sticking with AEW though. Once again, this is AEW and someone affiliated with them, but this is much closer to AEW itself, that being Brandy Rhodes, the AEW chief brand officer. She recently deleted her Twitter after some passionate exchanges with members of the AEW fanbase around the subscription service AEW Heels. Now, I am not a woman, which means I have not signed up to AEW Heels. I've not been invited to do so, and I'm not aware of anything that is built for me in that concept. To my knowledge, this is built exclusively for women, which means there is simply nothing there for me. So my experience of it is usually in following fellow journalists such as Kristen Ashley, Stephanie Chase, who have been involved with that and who do tick the box for female. Now, we have to ask questions about whether AEW Heels is a good concept, whether it really does represent the women that it is looking for, because women, as we all know, are many and varied. So are you presenting something for all women? Is it possible to present something for all women? Or do you want to focus more on women who are wrestling fans? From everything I can tell, people who did attend the AEW Heels conference calls had a good time there, and essentially it was a very positive atmosphere. However, whether or not it's the right move to have a subscription service like this is a question that a lot of people have been trying to answer. For example, Daily DDT, a website I write for, one of their writers by the name of Harmony, wrote a very in-depth piece on this, which I will link in the description once I've finished the live show, essentially saying it doesn't represent what it should, and maybe it's not right for the time. What I will say is that Brandy, as Chief Brand Officer, was coming under criticism for the women's division. Now, AEW Heels is not affiliated with the AEW Women's Division, and she is not involved in the booking, so I get why she is saying that that's not something she can really answer. However, as Chief Brand Officer, your job is to be aware of the public perception of your company. The public perception of AEW right now, based on people I've spoken to, research I've conducted, and small focus groups the like, is that it might not be the best place for a female wrestler to sign up. It might not. NXT and Impact at the moment have much more prominent women's divisions, and there is obviously quite a strong base in Stardom where they, for example, might appeal more to women who are free agents at the moment. It's really hard for them to be able to say this is a place for women to be. And yes, it's taking time to find its feet, but they keep hiring more people, and they tend to come in over the top of other people. This is something that AEW has been doing a lot recently, where they will hire someone over the top of someone else. And this is happening with tag teams, this is happening with single stars. Someone will come in, get a title shot, and anyone who's already there loses out on that possibility. If you are a free agent female looking to find wrestling work, would you go to AEW? By all means, let me know in comments. Moving on from AEW, we are going to move to WWE and cover a few tidbits that have jumped out there. Now, firstly, SmackDown on Friday did not feature a Big E match, but did have a very good Big E promo. However, Naomi was not featured at all. I will have to ask questions about this particular choice because they have clearly stated a lot of fans are behind Naomi, a lot of fans are behind Big E. They're aware of this. In fact, they've made it part of the storyline, and then they take them out of the ring. And I'm not sure what we got in ring, which was one clean finish for the whole thing, was everything really needed. There was, however, a very interesting development with Alexa Bliss and The Fiend, which that's probably the key storyline at the moment going into SummerSlam on the SmackDown brand, even though we had Retribution there, which apparently is not political, but I will wait and see more on that one because at the moment it's very hard to separate that from the political landscape that we're in at the moment. It does seem like The Fiend last week in attacking Alexa Bliss really kicked things into gear. Hello Mags, welcome. Mag says, I don't know if you've already covered it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on the shake-up at Warner Media and how it affects AEW. It's difficult to say at the moment. Obviously, with a shake-up like this happening, almost everything is potentially on the table to change. However, what they're not going to do is change things that are working well. AEW has gone way beyond expectations for ratings. Even if they were losing to NXT every week and were getting a third of the ratings that they're getting, they would still be smashing targets. And the key demographic for TNT and Warner is an area that they're extremely happy with. That is something that will keep making money. It really is. So I would say at the moment, AEW are probably completely safe. However, don't quote me on that. Slayer says he would go to AEW as a female free agent. Please do give me a reason on that. I'd like to hear more about people's opinions for it, because from what I can tell and the female wrestlers I've spoken to, Impact is a lot more appealing than AEW right now. Although, of course, WWE are also slightly more appealing depending on what you're looking for. You have less control in WWE, but you tend to have a bit more money. Mustafa Ali was only on TV to cover for Apollo Crews, which is something I was really afraid of. Essentially, Apollo Crews was expected back at Extreme Rules. He wasn't signed back as expected. He was then expected back for the following Raw when they taped that Raw and the next week's Raw on the same day, immediately after Extreme Rules. He still wasn't cleared, so Mustafa Ali was essentially drafted in to fill that slot. Now that Crews is back, looks like we might not see all that much of Mustafa Ali, and that is a real shame. MVP is one of many people who've had Ali's back, so hopefully the reception he got from fans and fellows will change that. I'm definitely going to be tweeting about him. If you guys are fans, please do so. Same with Big E, same with Naomi, same with anyone you're a fan of. Voice that positivity, because anything you tweet might well snowball, and the WWE have clearly been paying attention recently. You are very welcome, Mags. Thank you very much for joining me on the stream as well. I'm glad to see a friendly face. Glad to see him picking up some regulars as well. Slayer, welcome. Seth Rollins recently held an Instagram live session to talk fitness. Seth Rollins is a very fit boy, so it's a shame I missed it. I'd love to get some tips. When given the chance to ask for tips and advice from CrossFit Jesus, a lot of people got very invasive about his partner and future child. Dean Ambrose, when he was still Dean Ambrose, before he went back to Jon Moxley, was always very vocal about the fact that he would have fans essentially chasing him in airports. Sasha Banks much the same. Fans can be incredibly invasive no matter what company you work for, and that is a real shame. Seth shut it down as well as can be, and hopefully in future people will learn. Noob & Co says hello to me and how am I doing? I'm doing very well, thank you, sir, and welcome to the stream yourself. Glad to see so many people I know from Twitter jumping in. I'm going to be doing these live streams every week, hopefully still on YouTube, potentially maybe somewhere else if it's not just me, because I'm looking potentially at a proper TV show style setup. You'll see that I'm slowly getting better with my live streaming software. I'm still not great, but I'm getting there. So I'm going to be doing 5 o'clock UK time and 12 noon EST, so American time on the East Coast, on Fridays for SmackDown preview shows. At the same time on Mondays, I do Sportskeeda Facebook page live streams for Raw previews. And on Sundays, 10 p.m. UK time, 5 p.m. EST in the US, I will be right here for you guys to ask questions, to talk about the latest news and what's going on in pro wrestling. Live content is seemingly where it's at right now, so I'm trying to get on that while it's hot. Bianca Belair attacked Zelina Vega in her home, if you've missed it, during a live stream interview with Kayla Braxton. Pardon me. That was awesome. More of this, please. This is really good and interesting stuff, because what a lot of people don't seem to realize when it comes to promoting yourself, and the women are way better at this than the men, is that when you're not on TV, you can still put yourself over and you can still have other people put you over. Look at what Rhea Ripley did, picking a fight with Mick Foley, picking a fight with Becky Lynch. Look what Becky Lynch did in arriving in the way she did. And there are other people who've been doing really well at it. Baron Corbin grilling meat has been really putting himself over in a way that people can really relate to. This is a perfect example of that. Zelina Vega is in an interview with Kayla Braxton. I believe it may have been The Bump. I'm not sure. They've been doing a lot of Instagram Live recently. And she was attacked by Bianca Belair. Technically, Bianca Belair should be arrested, but as it's wrestling, let's just forget that there are such a thing as police. Roman Reigns has appeared on WWE programming for the first time in forever by appearing on R-Truth show. Apparently, this was a surprise to a lot of people. What I want to say is that Roman Reigns is still very much employed. He's not gone anywhere. I know every now and then I get asked, is Roman going? And he's very much still with the WWE. They're still paying his contract. The WWE can still run his schedule. So if they say to him, we need you to be remotely available at this time, he is obliged to do so. So he will do so. He will probably be appearing on Corey Graves' After the Bell soon. This is one example. I would expect he might be on Up Up Down Down soon, but he always waits for them to do Call of Duty before he does that. He's a big Call of Duty fan. Outside of that, for example, you'll see Samoa Joe this week playing zombie games with Xavier Woods. So they're always very entertaining. I'd expect to see Roman Reigns again on Up Up Down Down soon, hopefully, if they do Call of Duty again. That is everything for WWE. I do want to end on some New Japan news. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm quite a big New Japan fan. I've gotten really into it the last year or so. After last year's G1, when I watched, I think, 3/4 of the matches. I missed Toriano versus John Moxley, which I'm still upset about. But for those who aren't familiar, New Japan runs very differently to the WWE, not just in overall match pace, but also when it comes to presentation. New Japan have 4 factions: Bullet Club, I always butcher this, Los Ingobernables de Japón, I can speak a bit of Spanish as well and I still get it wrong sometimes, Suzuki Gun, and Chaos. Now, of these 4 factions, Bullet Club is the one that everyone in the West tends to be aware of because they are the Westerner faction. Although right now, Evil, whose name is literally just Evil, has defected from Los Ingobernables de Japón to Bullet Club, a large part of this being that Bullet Club, there was going to be a leadership struggle between Jay White and Kenta, but Jay White and Kenta are not there, as is a large portion of Bullet Club, because a large portion of Bullet Club is not Japanese and they were not in Japan when COVID hit and the country was locked down. Jay White still not involved in anything New Japan. However, there is now an American tournament going on for American talent. New Japan is very different right now. We have a double champion at the top, that being Evil, who has the heavyweight and intercontinental championships, which means the intercontinental title is not in play. The United States Championship, still held by John Moxley, is not in play. What we're seeing is that the Never Openweight Championship is a lot more prominent. The Junior Heavyweight Championship is a lot more prominent, and the people who hold that, Shingo Takagi, Hiromu Takahashi, are getting a lot more prominence. US stars will be back in action soon. It does look like they're going to be traveling to Japan sooner rather than later. What I would recommend, as Mags has definitely seen where I'm going with this, we saw an interfaction match, a 6-man tag between members of Chaos. Chaos is a faction led by Kazuchika Okada, probably one of the more famous Japanese wrestlers known to the Western world. And they had a wonderful 6-man tag match for the Never Openweight Trio Championship, which has been vacated because Evil turned on Los Ingobernables de Japón. It's tricky to keep up with when you're just getting into it. Mostly the names, I forget names all the time, but I never forget the name Yoshihashi, I never forget the name Toru Yano, he's wonderful, and I never forget the name Kazuchika Okada. I do recommend watching that match. That's all the news I've got here that I really wanted to cover. I just scripted a few things from today and yesterday because I did cover quite a bit on Friday in the SmackDown preview. I would like to hear more from you guys who are watching now. First and foremost, is this sort of live stream something you want me to continue with? Because I don't really want to be doing this if nobody is really interested in what I'm putting out there. Is there something else you would like to see? For example, next week, probably on Sunday, possibly on Saturday, I will be uploading a SummerSlam 98 review. It's quite a long one. It was originally a 2.5-hour video, but I've got it down already to about an hour and a half. So it's quite a long one. I will be doing a premiere of it. It is with Stephanie Chase, my colleague at Sportskeeda and also of Digital Spy. So that should be a fun one. SummerSlam 98 was the first pay-per-view each of us actually saw, and I still think, to be honest, SummerSlam 98 is probably my favourite SummerSlam that I've seen, which is, I think, everyone since SummerSlam 98. Thank you, Mags. Thank you, Slayer, for endorsing this. I like I say, I'd like to do a lot more of them. I think in future I'll ask what other pieces of news people want me to cover. Obviously, you are free to ask questions. Any questions you have, I will try to answer. Sam Hardy's asked when is SummerSlam again, the date of it. Oh, I will Google that just to be sure that I definitely have that right, because I don't want to get that wrong on a live stream. Always check you're working. August 23rd, 2020. August 23rd is a wonderful time. So, it's still 2 weeks away. Not that long. Noob, yes, you always, or at least quite often, you've asked questions of the podcast with myself and Corey, the Sportskeeda podcast over on their YouTube channel. So thank you for those questions. I've tried to answer everyone that you've been able to give us. So this may be another avenue for you that's maybe a bit more direct. Yes, 2 weeks today, Mag. Thank you. I do occasionally lose track. I've got my calendar to prompt me of all of it. Since deciding to go full-time last week, I've been using that calendar so much more. One thing I'm curious about personally is, to my knowledge, the main event of SummerSlam is going to be Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton. They are the big names, and Drew McIntyre is considered to be the main champion, as it were. There'll be rotation. You saw, for example, at Extreme Rules, Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt were the main event. That's what I mean by rotation. However, The Fiend caught such a buzz by involving Alexa Bliss in the way that he did, that he may be able to change some minds. It's been a long time since we've really seen The Fiend. It was way back at WrestleMania at least, and even then it was a very different The Fiend, as it were, because the Firefly Funhouse wasn't really built around The Fiend. By all means, The Fiend actually in action, the last time we saw him, was against Goldberg in Saudi Arabia, and that really wasn't The Fiend. So all I'll say there, I skipped the Saudi Arabia shows. I don't want to put money in their pocket when it comes to those particular shows. So I was sat in a pub with the aforementioned Stephanie Chase, hearing the news come in. I had a message from another colleague, Rick Ucchino, who had the interview with Matt Cardona and has interviewed Nikki Cross on Sportskeeda's YouTube. And he was letting me know, sent me the message that, oh, Goldberg won the title. And I lost my mind a little bit. I am a huge Bray Wyatt fan. Anyone who follows me on Twitter will be aware of that. It was a awkward moment, really. We have our first question in from Noob & Co. There is a bit of a delay on the live streaming, so when I say to you, you feel free to ask questions, it might take 20 or 30 seconds for the questions to start coming in, regardless of if you type them 2 or 3 seconds later. So please be aware of that it may take me a moment to get to a question. So Noob asks, do you think Alexa Bliss and Asuka are going for a character ever since losing their friends to Sasha Banks and Bayley? Do you mean potentially a similar character arc? I'm not entirely sure what you're asking with that question. I'd appreciate if you could rephrase it a little bit, see if it can be a bit more clear to me. I think just the character thing is what's confusing me there. I think they're in quite similar situations. I wouldn't say necessarily that Alexa has lost her friend, but Nikki wasn't on SmackDown this week. Now, the feud between Asuka and Sasha is still going. However, the feud between Bayley and Nikki Cross is over. It's a shame, in my opinion, that we didn't at least get a moment of seeing Nikki Cross upset or looking for Alexa or trying to find out what's going on. Character change, thank you, Noob. I would say there's definitely some character changes. Yes, Asuka, I don't think there'll be much of a change, just that she'll get a bit more violent, which I am fine with. The matches between Asuka and Sasha have been very high quality. I think we're in danger of having too many rematches now, but we have still had very high quality matches. And I just really want one match to have a clean finish. Just one in this feud to have a clean finish. When it comes to Alexa Bliss, there's definitely a character change coming. She seems to have a bit of Stockholm Syndrome at the moment. I do want to stress, I stressed this in the SmackDown review yesterday when it was uploaded, that the plan is not for Alexa Bliss to be Sister Abigail. There is no intention to have that happen. Sister Abigail has long since died, and she was quite a bit older than Bray Wyatt when she did in the canon there. It's possible they will change that. However, the WWE aren't as guilty of last second changes and just changing, retrofitting the narrative as people seem to think they are. They tend to change things that they intend before they present them. For example, the SmackDown hacker. If the rumours hadn't got out, if the news hadn't got out that the SmackDown hacker was going to be Mustafa Ali, would people have still said, oh, the WWE are changing things? Bit of a shameless plug, but if you want more information about the SmackDown hacker, please do check out the video I've got on this very YouTube channel, the one you're watching right now, where I go in depth on what actually happened there and the future of it. We may still see the SmackDown hacker, but it's going to be a very different incarnation, and it will be sort of a MacGuffin for the writing team. Okay, I think at this point, after nearly 26 minutes, I am going to say goodbye, unless anyone has any more questions. I'll stick around for another 20 or 30 seconds to work out the delay. I will be here next week. I will script out a bit more. I feel I need a little bit more here. But a big thank you to everyone who has joined me today, everyone who clicks like on the video, anyone who's dropped in for even 10-15 seconds can make a big difference here. I am trying to get to a point where I can make a living from wrestling journalism. So it makes a big difference to me personally to have anyone drop in, even just for a short time, and particularly anyone who's been here longer or quite a lot of it. Mags, Slayer, Noob, you guys have been here quite a long time, so I appreciate you staying here and sticking with me. Thank you, Soul Starling, Sam Hardy, coming in asking questions, and anyone who hasn't engaged in the chat, you are of course still welcome. Slayer has asked, how long will SummerSlam be? Well, that's one of the reasons we have the Payback pay-per-view happening a week later. The idea is that Payback won't just be rematches, although there may be some rematches in it. Hi Riffing, welcome. It is more so that they can have an overflow pay-per-view. There is a conscious effort to make sure pay-per-views don't last as long. This is one of the reasons they want to change the venue and the setting, because when they don't have a crowd, they are starting to realize at WWE that long pay-per-views can be boring. I'm glad they're realizing this. There was one a couple of years ago, Backlash, which was main evented by Roman and Joe, when, I've got to say, the opening match between The Miz and Seth Rollins was excellent. Not a single other match I felt was worth watching, and it got annoying. So I'm glad that they've caught on a little bit with that. So I don't feel SummerSlam will be 5 hours or 7 hours as it's been in the past. Previous years have aimed for around 5 hours, 2 hour pre-show, 3 hour show, or potentially 6 hours with a 4 hour show. But then I think a couple of years ago, the main event of Roman and Brock, it ended after just 3 hours, which was incredible. Riffing has asked, he said, I heard a rumor that the new Nation of Domination was scrapped because of Titus O'Neil. Titus was uncomfortable with this in these times with the Black Lives Matter. To my knowledge, there was no intention to have a new Nation of Domination stable. I have no knowledge that there was any intention to do that. In fact, I've been told repeatedly that there was no intention to do that. Farouk and Mark Henry were not there to launch a new Nation of Domination. Now, I've mentioned this in previous live streams. I mentioned it, I think, not last Monday, but the Monday before on the Sportskeeda Monday Night Raw preview, that MVP has no interest in treading water. He has no interest in repeating things. He has no interest whatsoever in being a new anything. He wants to be his own thing, and he has confirmed that since. So it's not possible for Titus O'Neil to have scrapped it because it was never intended to happen. Riffing also asked, do you have your own page on WWE YouTubers Wikia? I am not aware there was a WWE YouTubers Wikia. I'm confident I do not. And of course, as the man himself, I am not entitled to edit my own wiki, so I will have to hope that I make enough of an impact as a WWE journalist, well, not a WWE journalist, as a wrestling journalist and a wrestling YouTuber to qualify for that. I do not solely cover WWE. I started this show talking about AEW. I've also spoken about New Japan as well. Sam Hardy says he hasn't watched a live WWE pay-per-view since Money in the Bank. Is that this year's Money in the Bank, where they had the men's and women's match at the same time? Riffing says, did you know that the Seth Rollins stable is called the Greater Good? I don't think it's been implicitly stated. It's certainly been suggested. But I am happy calling a lot of the factions by the names of the leaders. For example, Team Vega, Team Messiah. I just feel it works better, personally. If they don't implicitly tell me what the name is, for example, the Hurt Business, then, yeah. And to be fair, the Hurt Business took a long time to call itself the Hurt Business, because when it was just MVP and Bobby Lashley, there wasn't really that much need to. MVP's trying to recruit a lot of people, so I can understand why he needs a name. Riffing has asked why Vince hates Batista. I'm not aware that Vince McMahon hates Batista. To my knowledge, Vince McMahon and Batista get along very well. And of course, if Batista at any point asked to come back to the WWE, Vince McMahon would guaranteed welcome him with open arms. Also asks, is Batista forgotten by WWE just like CM Punk is? No. Batista's been back very recently for his last match. Batista's incredibly popular in WWE. He's just got a movie career right now, so he can't be wrestling all the time. Okay. I'll give it another couple of seconds in case any more questions come in. I'm feeling good about this. I've managed a 30-minute live stream. That's slightly longer than it was last week. I will be doing these, as I've mentioned, a lot more often. My schedule going forward for live content is Mondays, 5 p.m. UK time or 12 noon EST, so the Eastern Standard Time in the US, will be on the Sportskeeda Facebook page for a WWE Raw preview. At the same time on Fridays will be a SmackDown preview on this show here. Bo Dallas is not still signed with the WWE, no. Hang on. Oh no, wait. No, he is. Sorry, my bad. Curtis Axel, to my knowledge, is not still signed with the WWE. Bo Dallas is. It's hard to keep up sometimes. A lot of people are released. I may have to double check that one. To my knowledge, Bo Dallas is still with the WWE. And on Sundays, 10 p.m. UK time, 5 p.m. EST for US time, right here, at least at the moment, for regular live streams where I'll be covering any news I haven't covered in those previews and so on. No, Corey Graves was never an option to be the SmackDown hacker thing. It was always supposed to be Mustafa Ali. For more information on that, I have a YouTube video covering the entire hacker storyline. Thanks for asking so many questions. I really do appreciate that. You've come in and you've gone a whirlwind, and I really do appreciate that. Keeps me interesting. Okay, for now, I'm going to say thank you very much to everyone watching, and I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you very much for joining.